Oh, it's uploading.
It is right now. I haven't paused it yet.
There you
So
go.
I
Upload
wonder how.
paused on my end.
All right, yeah, I got you, and now I got to get Cody. Pause upload, but I wasn't able to do mine. Let me see. I wonder how this will work for the YouTube video.
Yeah, well, we'll find out.
Okay, now there's me. All right, everyone's
Oh,
paused.
wow. Never talked about that. Galactus is the main villain of Fantastic Four, confirmed. Anyways.
No way.
Messed up.
Oh, that's huge. I'm so excited, dude.
deadline.
Oh, deadline. Oh, it's official,
God,
dude.
we could have just talked
All right,
about that.
That's
Oh, well. It's fine.
that's
It's
crazy.
fine. We'll talk about it
All
next
right,
time.
ready?
Ready, sir.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Why So Sidious Nerd Podcast. Today is a special episode with a special guest, and we have a special topic to dive into. Joining myself and David is the handsome and wise Commander Cody. Cody is a good friend of mine. We actually lived together for a little bit, going to college in Sacramento, and he actually just cooked through these Star Wars books and was down to talk about it with us. Which leads me to our episode topic of the day, which is the Darth Bane trilogy. It's like I want to say 3,000 years before A New Hope, and it follows Darth Bane. You got book 1 is Path of Destruction, book 2 is Rule of Two, book 3 is the Dynasty of Evil. It's 1,000 years before. And this, like you heard it, Rule of Two is made here, the Sith rule of one to crave the power, one to embody the power. And we'll dive into a lot more, but before that, don't forget to follow us at Why So Sidious Pod on X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You'll find clips and a lot of extra stuff you won't hear on the podcast. And YouTube actually holds our whole unedited videos, so some of the behind-the-scenes bloopers kind of stuff there. And as far as what we've covered lately, Dune 1, Dune 2, got a review on both of those movies. If you clicked on this episode, you're a Star Wars fan, and we just dropped an episode with another special guest talking about the best Star Wars quotes, so check that out. We just dropped our comic book review of Sinestro Corps War. E for Extinction will be our next comic book review. It's an introduction to the upcoming villain in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. Cassandra Nova is introduced here, so it's relevant. And just a solid Grant Morrison written X-Men read. So let's get into it. And Cody, as a first-time guest, what does Star Wars mean to you? Why are you a fan? Give me an unofficial favorite Star Wars movie, favorite Star Wars character, least favorite Star Wars movie. Go.
Oh man, right on the spot. Let's see. What does it mean to me? No, I didn't grow up watching the Star Wars. It wasn't like a big thing for me as a kid. So I think I saw Phantom Menace with my dad when I was 6 or so, and it was cool. I mean, as a young kid to be able to see Anakin in the pod racer, like as a kid like your age doing this crazy stuff, like blowing up space shuttles and like doing all this like insane action adventure type stuff, and I think it really it hit me there. And so I actually watched 1, 2, 3 before I watched the originals. And so a little backwards for most. I think a lot of people that get into Star Wars, they get into it young and they get to see the originals first and then go back. So for me it started late, and I had always liked it, and really the last few years it really took off for me because my wife and I were like, she had like, I love the originals, but I haven't really like watched them all in order. And I was like, well, let's just do it. Let's watch them all in order. And she's like, well, if I want to watch everything, if I want to watch all the movies, might as well watch everything. So we watched literally everything. We started from
That's awesome.
1, 2, all of Clone Wars, 3. I mean, we went through Bad Batch. We watched, Rebels and Rogue One all the way through the originals, and the only thing we didn't watch was Resistance, but I don't think anybody watched it, so it's fine.
Yeah, you're good.
But yeah, that's what really jump started it for me. So it was probably about 3-4 years ago that I was like in, and I was like, man, this is cool. I wish there was more. And I think the big thing that propelled me was your guys' top 5 Star Wars novels. and that really got me into the
Nice.
books, which is kind of what leads us here today. But yeah, I'm on book 17 now. In the last
Wow.
year since your guys' podcast, yeah, I just been flying through, and I
That's
do
awesome.
audiobooks. I'm on the road a lot, so I could just put them on in the car and just go. So, anyways, let's see. Favorite
You gotta be
movie,
joining us more then. Some more of these Star Wars novels.
dude.
Which, by the way,
absolutely.
Cody's the OG fan of ours. This man has been interactive. This dude's listening constantly. He's stuck with us from the very jump. So it's nice to finally get him on here because it's been a long time coming.
No,
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
super appreciative of your guys' content. Like I know, JD and David. I known you guys a long time, and as soon as I heard, I think it was from JD. They're like, "Hey, we're starting a podcast." I was like, "Cool, dude. That's sweet. I'll listen to it." In the first couple, I was like, "Yeah, the homie's doing a podcast. That's sick." And then as you guys kept going, I was like, "Wait, this is good stuff." Like, I get all of my first one of the stuff.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun, dude. And yeah, that support, dude, we love it more than you know. So that's awesome.
No,
But-
for sure. And
So,
Yeah.
so you gotta do it. Favorite Star Wars movie and least favorite and a favorite character. So we got to get a feel for the kind of Star Wars fan we're talking to here.
Who are you?
so, favorite movie is Revenge of the Sith. It's kind of
Okay,
hard to
yeah.
pick anything else.
Correct.
I say a close second is probably Rogue One. I'm a
Yep.
big Rogue One fan.
Yes,
I love that
dude.
movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
All right, he's in.
Solid.
absolutely. Yeah, you're good.
Least favorite. It's got to be The Last Jedi, man. It's
Yes.
it's just
That's not a bad pick.
Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones is cringy, man. It's rough. It's tough to get through, but they did my boy Luke so bad. It's so bad. Oh, it's
It hurts. It
it's your
hurts.
favorite character. It hurts, man. Like, I was so excited to get him back. You get that little peek at the end of 7, and you're like, "Oh, he's back. He's back." Like that. Force Awakens was fine.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't upset with that movie at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, that little bit, and I was like, "Oh, he's gonna be back," and then they just kill him. They just ruined.
Jake
Yeah,
Skywalker.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
If,
All right.
so favorite character.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
All right, favorite character is, and I took notes and it was tough, but I'm going with Darth Maul. Favorite character.
Oh, really?
Love it.
Number one. I love it. He was my
Just
childhood favorite for
The
sure.
rise and fall. Yeah, dude, it's just especially. I mean, you have to watch the Clone Wars. You have to watch the Clone Wars because
Oh,
you
yeah.
know
Yeah,
you
that's
get to
Maul.
see his redemption. He comes back. He starts taking over again, and then him and his brother run into Sidious, and he gets slapped back down anyway. So it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's great, man. I love his story. I love everything about him. He's so cool.
Such a good arc.
Amazing character.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Cody, you're in.
Okay, well, yeah, you're all right. You passed the test, flying colors. But yeah, we'll get into Bane real quick. One more little question, just real quick. What are some of the favorite books you've read out of those 17?
Ooh, favorite books. All right, dude. Number one is Plagueis. Hands
All
down.
right. Yeah,
So
that's
good.
a really, really good. Really good.
I have a tie for second. Path of Destruction is up there. And I also really enjoyed the novelization of Revenge of the Sith. I don't know if you guys have read that yet.
Okay. I've
I
started
haven't
it.
yet. JD did, I think. Oh, okay.
Dude,
And it was
So good.
So
I mean-
far, it's really, really good. Yeah.
what's nice is you get like an insight to like inside the minds of the characters. So some stuff that you don't get in the movie. So it's like so much
Yeah.
of Anakin and Palpatine's relationship and how he really turns, and it's great.
You get the story without relying on George Lucas's dialogue to expose everything.
Yes, that.
So, yeah, I'm sure it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good,
Darth.
yeah.
I gotta
Or
get
not
that.
Darth, but Grievous is way more menacing in there, like right off the bat. all the insight to that first scene of them fighting through and finding Palpatine, like all the insight and the action. And yeah, Grievous was actually a scary villain, but he also wasn't Clone Wars, and I'll give him that. He was way better in Clone Wars than he was in the prequels, Grievous.
Yeah.
Cool.
Did him more justice.
Yeah. And to open up into this trilogy, let's do it with a banger and start with just ranking the 3 books. So Dave, I'll throw it to you and then include some overall thoughts.
Yeah, so this trilogy is great. Love it. And it's a pretty easy ranking for me. The first book is the best, Path of Destruction. Rule of Two is the second best. And then coming in at third is Dynasty of Evil. And that's just, unfortunately, it rolled out to where it felt like the books got a little bit worse by each one. But I still really enjoyed it. I liked the third one, too. But I just... I hadn't read these for about 5 years. When I read these, it was about 2019. And so, first and foremost, shout out to a podcast who was once known as the All Things Star Wars podcast and is now known as the Sidebar Cantina. And that is because after I listened to the Bane trilogy, I was working on a ranch. I listened to a lot of stuff. I was like, man, that was so good. I want to hear somebody talking about this. And so I went to their podcast, and they had a Bane episode. I was like, perfect. And I, from there, got stuck to listening to them, and that actually opened me up to nerd podcasts and motivated me to want to do this now. So a big shout-out to Dave and Jason over there. But they're who I used to kind of refresh my memory for this episode, because I wasn't going to be able to read all 3 of them again. So I went back and listened to their episodes and kind of got a refresher. So quick shout-out to them. But the trilogy is just great, man. I love the way Drew Karpyshyn writes. He also writes the Revan book, a couple other Old Republic novels. He actually was the one who wrote the Knights of the Old Republic video game stories. He was working for BioWare before he became an author. So he wrote those stories. But man, he just needs to write some more stuff. If he's still out there writing stuff, we need some more Star Wars content from him, because I just love his style. He paints such an image in your mind with the way he describes not only people but places too, like fights and feelings. Like, he made me physically cringe multiple times from some of those fight scene descriptions. And it's just not only that, but he does a great job at writing gritty and dark storylines without just being dark and violent to be dark and violent. Like, there's a reason behind it, but it's just a different style to Star Wars that I just absolutely love. And I would love if Disney would pull its head out of its ass and start putting more attention on getting good canon novels written, get Karpyshyn back in action, bring Zahn back for some more. Like, when's the last really, really good Star Wars novel that dropped? It's been a few years. It's been, I think the first Thrawn book was solid.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think they slowly fell off from there. But it's like, get this man back in action. So I could go on for a while about it, but that's my main thing here. But Cody mentioned audiobooks. If you're out there and you haven't read this, audiobook is such a great way to do it. You get the John Williams score. You get bones like crunching, like sound effects in these books. Like, you feel these visceral moments in these books. So
Sabers.
It was just a great trilogy of Sith lore, and I loved it. Yeah, the lightsabers, the force crunching, everything. It's an immersive experience, and it's a great trilogy, especially if you love the Sith.
And you nailed it. He doesn't just go dark and violent for the sake of it. It totally fits perfectly into his stories, and perfect specifically for the Sith. Like, they are dark and violent. Like, that's what they do. And it just fits perfectly. Okay, right on. So, Cody, I'll toss it to you. Rank them and overall thoughts of the trilogy.
I got the same order. Sorry.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, and it's pretty, for most of the reasons David just mentioned. I mean, it gets a little slower. It's a lot of, him going off on his own to find holocrons, and it slows down for sure. But I will say that the reason why Drew really you feel engaged in it is his description is so good. And what I really love most is his description of the Force. And especially with Sith users, because he mentions that, it's like a hot fire burning inside of you, and he really plays on how you use fear and anger and rage and all of these, hatred emotions to conjure up power. And I just think it's really, really interesting that he can almost, I mean, this is an audiobook, right? You're not watching a movie. It's not like, something visual, and you get such a good picture out of it because it's like so descriptive, and how they channel and focus their energy, and how they, unleash on people. And it's brutal, man. Like, some of this stuff is really brutal. You're like, dude, this is a Star Wars book. Like, this isn't George Lucas Star Wars. This is gritty, man.
Dude,
Zack Snyder Star Wars.
Yeah, for sure.
better.
Yeah. All right. Well, I actually have a different ranking, and it must be recency bias, but I did pick book 2 over book 1, so I have book 2 as my her.
Straight up. Yeah, it's really cool to be able to take a peek behind the curtain of the Sith. It's something we really didn't get a lot of in canon material, honestly, until recently. Like, the Sith wasn't a thing in the original trilogy. The word Sith was never spoken in the movies. It might have been mentioned in the book novelization, but it was never spoken in the movie. The prequels, we barely got anything from them either, honestly. We got a few mentions here and there, but the sequels, even less. And it's such a cool concept, especially as a companion piece to the Jedi. So to not only follow a main character who's walking the path of the Sith, but to follow one who created the infamous Rule of Two is it's such a rewarding experience to get all of this. So, there's a lot of Sith knowledge we pick up that paints a different picture than what we had in our minds before these books. When I think of Sith, I'm thinking of red lightsaber, evil Jedi Force user, incredibly powerful, maybe some Force lightning. What I don't think of is non-Force users or just regular like radio technicians and infantry soldiers and like different tiers of different levels of Sith. Like, that's what the Sith Empire was before this thought bomb. They were kind of similar to the Republic in the way they were set up, and you just don't think of that when you're thinking of Sith after watching the original or prequels. So, I mean, it goes back even further. The Sith were actually a species first before the Sith Empire. Darth Malgus' master was one, actually. From the Deceived novel. But with that being said, they also quite aren't the Sith we thought for another reason, and that's something we get from Bane. And it's an aspect of this book I love, and it's pretty much where Bane just kind of realizes the Sith are a bunch of bitches, Like, this wasn't an army full of Darth Vaders, Darth Sidious, and Darth Tyrannuses running around. They were kind of watered down, and that's what Bane realizes. He goes, he realizes so many of these Sith are incredibly weak and disappointing, because there's too many masters and apprentices, and it's diluted the ways of the Sith as he is learning the Sith history from Revan and this holocron. And it's such a badass aspect to his character's story, but it's also straight up psychotic, like almost a Hitler level of... Like, think about this. This guy has known these people for a little over a year and has already decided that he doesn't like them and that they aren't fit to be Sith, and so he just straight up commits genocide in an instant. Like, he just kills everybody. Says, you guys are not worth it. I just found out about the Sith, but I know one thing, and you guys aren't it, and kills them all. It's just like, that put Bane near the top of the all-time Sith list there, but... yeah, it's just cool getting this new perspective and seeing this Sith training academy, and it makes you want to find more Sith knowledge. And that's what happened with me. I jumped into the Revan book after this because it's just like this book makes you want to just keep diving into the lore of the Sith.
About it, but it's a
bro.
No, actually, I read. Let's see, I put them in order. I read. Actually, I went with Revan first, and then I went to. Dark Disciple. I don't know if you. It's Sithy.
Yeah,
it's Sithy.
It's good.
Yeah. And then I went through after the Bane trilogy, all of the 4 Old Republic books. So Deceive, Fatal Alliance, and Annihilation. So, no, and that series in order was pretty cool too. They kind of jump over, and none of them really like flow, but they're all great books. Worse.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. They, yeah.
I don't know if I read
that. Okay.
I had to read them all just because that's who I am, but yeah, I'd stop. Yeah, they just kind of.
Okay. Oh, yeah, Path of Destruction.
Well, I know you already mentioned that it's kind of like rising through the ranks kind of thing, and to take over. Sorry, my wife is checking on me, see how I was doing, and my daughter, and whoever else might come in.
Oh yeah, come in.
I really, I know it's a played out storyline, but I love it, man. I think what's really cool is that like we don't get a lot of. Sequels is we get in the sequels, but not as much before. There's not as much lore about somebody becoming a Force user, learning Force powers, already almost into adulthood.
As an adult, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a whole new concept. Like, yeah, he was 16 working the mines. I think he was probably 18, 20, 22 before he even joined the academy. So, he's well, like, into his adult life. He had been a mine worker, and then he was part of the army. And he understood that he was lucky, but he didn't know why the luck was happening. And so, like, he had no previous knowledge to the Force or anything along those lines. So I thought that was really cool to be able to see somebody learn that all of their luck was for a reason, and they had these abilities, and then to hone in. Also really interesting to notice that, like, multiple times throughout the book, he sneaks away to go read ancient texts and study, and the Sith are like, "What are you doing? Get out of here. Like, we don't listen to this garbage anymore."
Nerd.
Like, yeah, Revan's old news. Like, we're the Sith Empire now. Like, we're all brothers here. And he's like, "That's not Sith, my guy." Like,
Yeah, it is pretty weak. They don't even take the title Darth because we're all equal, and that would suggest that one is a lord and one is. It's like, okay, you guys are weak. But I like the luck thing. I'm always up for somebody winning a game of poker by using the Force to sense the cards, like he does in that mining scene in the early part of the book. But that's a good point. It's interesting seeing them come into his power.
Yeah, same with his fights too. Like, he gets in a fight, like, within the first chapter or whatever, in the mines, and he's like, "Oh, he's gonna punch me in the face. I'll just duck this way." Like, he's like, "I don't know how to do it. I just kind of fuck everybody up somehow." Right? Like, his first fight, he gets hurt pretty bad, and then he just, like, bites off the dude's thumb, and you're like, "Oh, okay, sweet."
Tyson, baby, come at me, Jake Paul. Had a thing in your mind.
So that's how I felt when I first read it. I was trying to picture it. It was one of those things in audiobooks where I rewound by like a couple of minutes multiple times because it's like, okay, I got to hear how they're describing what is happening right now. And then I think even after that, I looked it up and like read a more descriptive explanation online about it. But once I realized it's a crazy ass concept. It really is. I mean, it's dark and intense to another level, but it's also Palpatine levels of manipulation. This man convinced the Sith Brotherhood to detonate a force bomb that would not only wipe out the Jedi, but wipe them out who were taking part in the ritual as well. Like, he literally convinced themselves to just straight up commit self-genocide. Like, Palpatine would have been proud, but it was insane. Cody, did you like get it while you were listening? Did you have to rewind it all? Because
no, definitely had to rewind multiple times. Yeah, I was like, what is this guy talking about? He just like trapped everybody. Like, the whole cave sequence when they're on. I mean, what I believed it turns into Planet Hoth at some point, right?
No, I think that was the admiral's name.
Right, but he said, like, after the bomb went off, the whole place turned into, like, it just kept getting colder and colder, and it turned into, like, a frozen wasteland. So in my head, I was like, oh, that probably turned into Hoth. Cool. I don't know if that's true or not, but
what the hell?
Totally. I might have totally made that up in my head, but I'm going with it.
I like it.
The whole cave sequence, I was like, dude, I had to keep thinking about it again. Like, this doesn't make any sense. But once I finally grasped the concept, I watched a couple of YouTube videos, some guys breaking it down, some people way nerdier than me, and they actually explained it with a picture, and it's like a floating orb, basically, of energy, like Force energy that like drew the souls in of Force users, and it's like, dude, this is the craziest. Yeah, it's like the craziest concept like I've ever heard.
Yeah,
no, it's insane.
Well, and I think what's even more impressive is that Lord Khan, the leader of the Sith at the time, he was known for being able to manipulate like multiple people, like people all around him, to be able to follow and like become a leader. And so he was using this manipulation to like some of the most powerful Sith in the entire galaxy. He's just like brainwashed them basically. And for Bane to walk in and be like, hey, I got this idea for a thought bomb. And he's like, no, I have this idea for a thought bomb. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it in this cave. It's going to be sick. And he's like, no, I'm going to do it. You go away.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he totally like makes him steal his own idea and is like, yeah, dude, it's going to be sick. And he's like, no, go back to camp. I got this. And like literally like convinces him to kill everybody, including himself. And you're like, dude, what? Yes. Like, this guy's a savage. This guy's a mastermind.
Yeah, it's another level of
manipulation.
Wild. I like the parallel between the Sith and Republic. Again, it's a new aspect. We don't typically think of the Sith in that way, but even at the beginning, the Sith and the Republic are both coming to the same planet to recruit these miner workers. And they say that the Republic's there gambling against Dez or Bane, and somebody's like, the Sith come here too to recruit the same thing. And it's one of those aspects that shines a light on war. It was one of the few good scenes from The Last Jedi when Benicio del Toro pulls up the arms dealer's contact catalog and it shows TIE fighters, and Finn's like, yeah, see, he sells the scumbags. And then the next thing, it shows an X-Wing. And Benicio's character's like, yeah, it's war. There are no good or bad sides to war. It's just war. So I like that aspect of this book, and it's always interesting seeing the Jedi written as the antagonists, as they're kind of describing the Jedi, the Army of Light or whatever they were called. But it was just dope. And sorry, the last thing, awesome display of power with Bane after he's poisoned and he's trying to get to the nearby healer. And he's dying, and in order to sustain himself to make it to the healer, he's just murdering anybody he can find within him, who's around him, to gain more power through the dark side, to be able to sustain himself to make it to the healer. Like, my God, what a savage force of nature that is.
Yeah, that's wild. Well, what's crazy is that this little girl, Xana, is 10. Like, he picks up this 10-year-old girl just sitting out in the middle of the woods and is like, hey, what happened to these guys over here? And she's like, I killed them. They hurt my friend. And he's like, cool. Rule of 2. We're on. So, yeah, I mean, like, immediately, like, her level of just, like, not give a shit is crazy. Like, blows up her cousin's hands. Like, yeah, she spared his life, but... like, to be able to just do that, be like, man, I don't want him to die. I'll just blow his hands off. Like, all right, cool. But yeah, the way she gets off planet, just like murdering a whole family,
dude,
cool.
Didn't see that coming.
And I believe it's the same book where they go to Onderon, right? And he's on the moon, and he's like, meet me at Onderon, and she's chilling there. She just like murdered a whole spaceship full of people and just like waiting for him. Oh, yeah. And then like all these guys with these like dragon riders come up and they're like, hey, we're gonna kill you. And then out of nowhere, Bane just flies in on one of these dragons that he took from the moon, flew from a moon to the planet, made a force shield around him of force energy to fly across from a moon to a planet, comes in and just murks everybody. And you're like, bro. What?
Yep.
Yeah, just the absolute, like, just devastation that this guy causes is unreal. And it's like throughout the whole book, it's like that, where he's just like, yeah, we have to go over here. Let's just go kill, 50 people real quick, and then, we'll move on. Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, just exposing a little girl the whole time to just like this absolute treachery, and she's just like, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, she's an asshole.
So crazy.
I don't know. I don't know if I got queasy. Yeah. It was definitely. It was weird. It was definitely weird. But I'm with you. I wasn't sure about it yet. But by the end of it, I loved the concept. It's just super creative. It's unlike anything I've ever seen in a story. Like it's totally different and weird, but in a good way. It's this untouchable armor essentially. But it brings in, and if the things die while attached to him, they release poison, which is another interesting aspect to that. So he just straight up gets murked with their poison. But it brings up another interesting aspect with Zana, where she kind of mentions it to him, like, and I don't remember exactly how she mentioned to it, because again, I haven't read it in a while, but it was basically like, if you need the armor to be this powerful, are you really that powerful? Like, if you're relying on this armor here. And I think she kind of challenges him at one point. He's like, fine, go to Coruscant, find out how to get this off of me. If you think I'm not like a badass without this armor, I'll show you. But it was just a weird way to kind of elevate the story, but I liked it by the end of it. I thought it was a cool touch.
So significant.
Yeah, I fully agree. Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, the beginning of it where they talk about, they're like beetles, right? And they like attach to his skin, and then over time they just keep growing and growing and growing till they turn into like full body armor. And they're just like they're eating at him, but also feeding his fear and his anger and his hate, and so they're powering him up at the same time. So like they're killing him, slowly killing him and taking over his whole body. But at the same time, they're making him virtually invincible, like completely lightsaber proof. He can't be touched.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's so unique. Like the concept of it is crazy.
Very in a Thrawn.
Yes and no. I mean, it was still keeping my attention at this point. It wasn't to the point of book 3 where they go separate ways, and I'm like, all right, can they just like do some cool shit together? Like, so at this point, yeah, I was still pretty engaged. But I wish there was more for sure. But the stuff that she does, I like that they're completely different, right? Like Bane is very like big, muscular, strong, powerful, kind of your ideal Sith, right? He's just like this big, imposing force, and she's very manipulative. Also starts learning like the sorcery part of Sith, which I thought was really interesting. So I really enjoy. I mean, the stuff that she does to people is baffling. And also he teaches her a completely different form of lightsaber combat where she's using like the Maul double-sided lightsaber, but they're shorter, so she can defend easier. She's quicker, fast strikes, and really like super cardio, you know, so she can last forever and like outlast any opponent basically. So like I enjoy that even though they go separate, you get to hear about how different they are, and he's teaching her all these different things that he can't even do. So it's, you know, it is really interesting, and it kept me going for sure.
Straight up.
I like.
Yeah, go. You got it. No, you're good. Yeah, I loved their dynamic. It was definitely interesting. Like you said, I was hoping for more of a teamwork kind of deal, but these are Sith. You know, I realized, like, okay, I guess what I'm looking for probably won't happen, because we get to a point where he's disappointed in her because she hasn't tried to kill him yet. Like, this is a totally different dynamic of a relationship. He's like, God, I thought she was the one, but she hasn't even tried to murder me. Like, so, you know, I guess you can't really expect them to be teaming up a ton. But I totally was. I was there with you the whole time, too. I was like, man, I would like to just see them kick some ass together. Really just dominate some people. And we do end up getting something close to that at the end. But there were more points in the middle of the book that dragged than the first one for me, which is why this book doesn't make it up into my top lists. And is why the first one I like it more, because I felt more engaged more consistently during the first one. That being said, the third act of this one was the best of any of the trilogy.
Or something. But they kills. And
Dude, no, I didn't look into it. I think that's kind of a self-contained deal. I don't know if they span out and do any other stories. But the sorcery thing is a new aspect. First time for me when I was reading this book, I had, you know, Sith sorcery. That was a totally new concept to me. And God, again, back to the movie conversation. Imagine how epic of a movie this would make. You got the scene with Bane riding the dragon from a moon to a planet. You got her putting people into these nightmare fuel states. You've got these obelisks that would be forming this armor on him. And then the final fight at the end of it. I mean, my God, this trilogy would be incredible on the big screen. IMAX, I mean, yeah.
Oh, definitely. I want to say real quick, Sereno is actually the planet that Dooku's from. So I wonder if there's a correlation there. I was just looking that up real quick. I was like, that sounded familiar. I think that's where Dooku's from. So, you know, a big, rich, you know, high-class family. So it may be some kind of
put that together.
Connection there.
I was just thinking of the Sereno Mining Company, but I didn't even think of the planet. So, oh, my God.
But yeah, it is, you know, 1,000 years before, but it could be some kind of relation. But
family ties.
But yeah, so the Jedi, he ends up being an ambassador, like a protector for the previous chancellor, and so they were trying to assassinate him, and that's how that whole thing went down. But
right,
it definitely at this point started heating up. Especially, I mean, the one thing that drew me in was when Xana put that chick into the nightmare state or whatever, where she started seeing demons come at her and stuff, and like this is like some badass assassin. Like she's the Chiss, right? The Chiss assassin. I think. No, not yet.
That's book 3.
Book 3. Yeah. So that whole gang or whatever, where the Twi'lek with the 2 vibro blades and stuff, they square off. So she puts that chick into that nightmare state, and it is terrifying, like some deep Scarlet Witch type stuff. And you're like, dude,
Right.
like they literally say after the whole thing's said and done, before he like bows over to Xana or whatever, like looked over and she's still in the corner, just like crying, like rocking back and forth, like please kill me, like dude, what? Yeah, that was wild.
Crazy. Dark.
But dude, I think that was a big turning point for Xana. It really gave her like the opportunity to see like, okay, maybe I could actually do this. Maybe I could one day take Bane on, defeat him, and become, the master instead of the apprentice. So, she starts learning more about the sorcery, and, they get way into it in the third book too. But, it's her real advantage as to, if she is to fight him at some point, what she could do.
Yeah. That's
A
insane.
quick interesting fact about that is that I don't know if you guys have read the Ahsoka book or not.
Yeah.
Nope.
But she goes by the name Ashla in that book. That's
Really?
her secret name or whatever. So I thought that, right when you said that, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like,
That
the
is
light side
awesome.
of the Force. That's like her code name that she is.
And she pretty much becomes the embodiment of the light side of the Force when she becomes a Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So it all
Interesting.
It's all a circle.
Yeah, weird.
His torture
Isn't it
and
the
other
same
ways of
healer
convincing.
from book 1 that he slaughtered everybody and then got to the healer and threatened his daughter's life, and then they just ended up
No
going back to the
way.
same exact planet and healer from that. And I think the healer even goes, "My daughter's not here. You have nothing to threaten me with."
I
And then
totally
Zana does
forgot.
some crazy. I think they convince him like, if you heal him, we'll disable our ship and you can call in the Republic and get them to arrest the man who slaughtered everybody, but you have to heal Darth Bane. And then everybody gets slaughtered after that because they believed him for some reason. But yeah, it was the same healer, I thought, from the first book.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 100%
That,
same
that
guy.
almost to go. Daredevil.
Well, I forget the order of it, but I don't remember when the third act, the fight with the 4 Jedi fighting Bane and Zana, was that in the same sequence? I don't
I
remember. when
probably
that took
skipped
place.
over it. Went to
Oh, that
Typhon,
was
or-
when the Force lightning occurred and he got hit with. Dude, that fight though, those 4 Jedi fighting against Bane and Zana. There's concept art out there of it, and it just makes me so badly want to see that live action animation too. I'm cool with that being an animated scene. I don't care. I just want to see that fight brought to a screen where we can watch. And I mean, God, even if Old Republic cinematic trailer like they got on YouTube, I'm fine with that. Just somebody generate that fight. It is just so dope.
Dude, that the twist was great. I mean, as she's like, yeah, go ahead, call the Republic, like we'll turn ourselves in. I was like, dude, really? Like, you're the Sith. Are you really gonna just like give it? I'm like, no, there's no way. And then to figure out that like she just hid where Caleb's daughter hid the first time that he went to go ask him to help heal when what's her name, Githany or whatever, poisoned him. And it's like, that's insane. And then just like, yeah, David, I know I already blew your hands off when we were kids, but now I'm gonna go ahead and put you into this crazy mental freak out state so they think they kill the last of the Sith.
Yeah, let me get you slaughtered
Wild.
by Jedi. There you go, buddy.
Yeah, crazy.
That was good. Yeah, so when you mentioned that in the group chat talking about that, the more you were kind of bringing it up, it jogged my memory. I do remember this book dragging a bit more, especially at the beginning. I think I actually took a break because typically the first chapter is a good hook in these books. Like book 1 hooked me, book 2 hooked me, but this one, the first few chapters did not hook me. So I think it was one of those things where I started listening to it and then I took like a week break and then I was out of podcast episodes. So I threw the book back on and then eventually I got back into it again. But yeah, overall, as I said, it's my least favorite, but I still liked it. I think there are a lot of redeeming parts to it, especially the ending. But it definitely is the slowest of the 3 in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. The whole, cave under the mansion, prison or whatever, like, I don't know, it just, having Bane basically just prisoner for half the book was like, all right. Like, half the book he's over looking for hologrons, the other half he's like a drugged prisoner. So it's like, okay, like, that's cool. I'd rather him just be off, like, just slicing heads off and stuff. But Yeah, that's cool though, you know. But I honestly, I think the end of it was worth it. It was such a good wrap up and leaves you, you know, guessing a little bit. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was definitely, you know, worth the wait to get through the end, but it was a push for sure.
Straight up. Yeah.
Whatever. He's a prisoner.
That
Yeah, Dave, how you feel
was
about it?
just like, it was just such a great ending. The description in the fight, because it's not your typical third act fight, obviously. You've got, like you said, I don't even really remember the detail to the Force Tendril stuff, but I do remember some weird stuff going on with the Huntress thing. And then you got Zana's sorcery fighting against this new essence transfer that Bane has learned, which kind of remind me of Palpatine in a lot of ways. But yeah, because Bane gets to the point where he's like, all right, well, my apprentice is a disappointment. She won't murder me, so apparently I need to find eternal life and continue my legacy because she won't do it. And so he's looking for this secret, and we finally see the culmination of it. And I was bummed listening when they describe, you know, everything settles and it's just Zana left. Like, no Bane, there's nothing left. And I was like, damn. Like, she actually beat him. She actually took Bane out. But then you get the little hand twitch, and that was a key part through the whole book. Bane was getting older, and he had this twitch in his hand, this little nerve twitch that they kept mentioning throughout the book. Bane's got this hand twitch. And at the very end, after we think Zana's walking away, they put the line in where her hand twitches. And it's like the oh God, what's it called?
It's like Freddy Krueger's head at the end of
the totem. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I was thinking more when we're trying to determine if Cobb is still in a dream or not in Inception. He's got his totem spinning, and right before the credits, you see the totem shake a little bit, and it's like, oh wait,
yeah,
like what the hell was that? So that was that moment, but in a book, which is, you know, an odd way to do it, but Drew Karpyshyn just nailed the description to it. So I thought it was an incredible freaking way to wrap a trilogy up.
So I have another theory about that, and I went back and reread the last few chapters of that I wanted to read that fight again. Was so good. And I'm listening to the audiobook, and it says that his hand is twitching right throughout the book, and then at the end it says Zana clenches and unclenches her left hand a few times, almost like realizing that, oh, my hand isn't twitching anymore. I think because Bane knew that in order to keep the legacy and the rule of two alive, Zana needed to win. I think he beat her. I think it was Bane inside her head. And I think he just carried on and said, I'm Xana, like, is what it is, and I'm just going to be her from now on. But I mean, to take over somebody's whole body and everything like that, you almost have to now become that person. So for her to carry on the legacy, to teach Darth Cognis, to keep the rule of two going, I think it might still be Bane in there. And I know you will never know. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get to the point where they talk about. I mean, there's nothing else on Darth Cognis and, you know, her.
Or anything.
I don't know how long. Yeah, with Bane and Zana, you know, they don't really talk about it anymore. So, you know, unless Drew decides to write a couple more books or whatever and continue it on.
Could you imagine?
We'll
so
never
sick.
know. So yeah, I'm like, dude, if that's still Bane in there, that would be crazy. And he's just like pretending to be her from now on. And I don't know, and then he would also get that power. You know, he would have the power to be able to use all the sorcery and everything, but still have his knowledge of how to use all the stuff that he never passed on to her. Yeah. So, I mean, that could explain why when we get into, you know, the few Sith right before Palpatine, you know, Plagueis and, you know, all these guys before, like, these guys seem like they know everything. Like the amount, like from the Plagueis book especially, like, you know, before he kills his master, it's like, dude, this guy has, like, the amount of knowledge he has is ridiculous.
Like, how did he acquire all that in one lifetime type of knowledge? Like,
right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, so I kind of wish I didn't read this, but it's still up for grabs. But apparently, at one point, Drew Karpyshyn, obviously the author, he confirmed that Zana won, although a small remnant of Bane remained in her. So I like it being up for grabs, and I just feel like that line again, he's the author, so if he says it, he's the one who wrote it. But that line to me, like the line was exactly well, it says she couldn't help but notice that as she was speaking, Zana was continually clenching and unclenching the fingers of her left hand. Like, I just don't know why you would put that in there if it's not Bane in there, if it's not Bane's essence, because that was a focal point. Well, not a focal point, but yeah, it was a thing. So I don't know. I think Bane won, but Drew Karpyshyn says Zana won. So.
See, I saw that quote the other day when I was, when we talked about doing this. I was like, oh, I want to research it a little more just to see if there's more out there. I didn't know it was from Drew himself. I had seen that just, Google search or whatever, and I was like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's Bane, I swear.
We'll have to get Drew on the show. We'll reach out. We'll track him.
I'll hit him up.
Yeah,
there you go. Man, the trilogy thing is cool. Like, I'm a big trilogy guy. Some of the best works of any kind of creation are in trilogies, and I really enjoyed the Thrawn trilogy, the 2017, the canon one, and obviously there's 3 trilogies in Star Wars, but this one was so good from start to finish. I mean, you look at even the originals, like they have their ups and downs. The OGs, the prequels, they definitely have their ups and downs, and that same with the sequels. So this for me is like it had the most highs with the least amount of lows. Like there was some dips, but this as a trilogy, it's so good, man. And if you're interested in more Sith stuff, like if you haven't read these, that's so good. I definitely would recommend them to anybody looking for more Star Wars lore and trying to get into it. It's just amazing.
Well said.
Fully agreed. Yeah. No, I think I pretty much covered it. Yeah, it's been a while since I read the third one, but I gave my take on it. But yeah, trilogy as a whole, it's really solid. It's a really good one to get in if you're jumping into Star Wars novels. The direct. So this was like I kind of thought of that'd be a fun thing to do, and then I wasn't able to really come up with a good answer for the director. I would be down for Matt Reeves. I'd be down to have him take over a type of movie like this. If I'm getting real greedy, give me Denis Villeneuve because he can tell a gritty sci-fi story like that. But I feel like it's kind of cheating. But whoever you go with, you need Drew Karpyshyn on as an EP. He needs to be an
100%.
executive producer.
No, for sure.
In a different
1000%.
time, I would have said Zack Snyder. I'm not sure how I feel about that at this point.
Right.
But his style does match up to the tone of this. I just don't know about quality and whatnot. But anyway.
Execution.
Bane, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. No, screw that guy. I think Dave Bautista would be a good one. I think he's kind of an obvious choice for that. And I hate to say this one, mainly because he's being cast for literally everything right now. But look at a picture of Henry Cavill with a buzz cut and think of him as the dark Superman in that point. I feel like maybe he could pull off a good Darth Bane.
Wow. I'm not even.
And then last Ray
I'm not
Stevenson, R.I.P., he would have been good. Yeah. All right. And then
I went
Zana, Anya Taylor-Joy.
Oh, yeah. In Ahsoka. I was picturing her beaten cast her as that dark. We got.
Okay.
I don't. There's probably a lot of guys American kind of way, not a Sith. You know what I mean? He can get that style.
Yeah, and hey, they're doing that 3-body problem that I mentioned last episode on Netflix. They're the ones doing it.
They are.
It's heating up. Yeah, I'm in episode 7. There's only 8 episodes, but I'm really liking it so far. But yeah, they're the showrunners.
All right. Well, for my director, we'll start there. I wanted somebody that is already in the Star Wars universe but hasn't got a real breakout chance yet. And so I went with I want Lee Isaac Chung. Yeah, he won a Oscar a couple of years ago for a foreign film. He's done a episode or 2 of Mandalorian. It looks like he's really breaking out, and I think a nice fresh face would be nice. Either him or Rick Famuyiwa.
Fukuyama? Or the guy on The Mandalorian?
Yeah, Famuyiwa. Yeah, I think he would be a good choice too. The episodes that he's done, he did, The Apostate. Yes. 7 and 8 of season 3, the last 2 episodes, The Spies and the Return. It seems like he works well in that universe. Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I think some of these guys are going to start breaking out a little bit too. You know, getting their chance with Favreau and Filoni, and you know, yeah, I went that route.
That's a good idea to go to the Mandalorian or go to Star Wars. People who've already worked with Star Wars. I mean, that makes perfect sense. But yeah, I loved all of Rick's episodes.
Yeah, Rick's were great. So either him or Lee Isaac Chung, I think, would be good. Casting wise for Bane, I got Christopher Hivju, who is Giant's Bane. The here, let me see if I can Tormund from Game of Thrones.
Oh, hell
Redbeard.
Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be awesome.
yeah.
He's a little younger, and I think Bane is in his 20s in the first book, and so I think he could probably pull off that transition from a younger to an older Bane.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a big, imposing figure, large guy. He'd have to ditch the beard, which kind of sucks,
Yeah.
but
And
you
the
got to do
hair.
what you got to do. If you want to be Darth Bane, you got to do what you got to do.
Oh yeah.
And then my Xana, I have Chloe Grace Moretz.
Oh, okay.
Most notably in Kick-Ass, but she's around the age too, so she could play the book 2, book 3 Xana. That's pretty. That's where she is anyways. She's only the last little bit of the first movie, so
Yeah.
I think she would be. She's got that pointy face, the blonde hair already, and a little bit of those sharp features, and they definitely mentioned Xana as like a very attractive woman. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good one.
So yeah, those are mine.
Hell yeah.
Nailed it.
No, I stay sweaty. I'm a big guy.
No, you killed it. That's why it happened. We haven't been doing that. We haven't been doing our warm-ups. All right.